Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our session this morning on hope and resilience. My name is Ash Dowling. I'm the Deputy Manager for Student Development within the ANU Engagement and Success team. I'd like to welcome you all to this ACUR at ANU student presentation session. And firstly, I'd like to acknowledge and celebrate the first Australians on whose traditional lands we meet, pay our respects to the elders past and present. So for me, as I'm physically here in Canberra, that's the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people. So welcome everyone. I hope you enjoy today's student presentation session. Our first presenter is Tina Marie Sheil, and she'll be kicking us off. So each student will have 10 minutes to present, and then we'll take a short 5-minute time period afterwards just to ask any questions that you may have. Okay, but we are going to be sticking to time, and I will be the one just keeping everybody, trying to keep everyone in time today. So yeah, thanks everybody. I will hand over now to Tina, who's going to share her presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Hello,
Tina.
my name's Tina Marie Sheil, and I respectfully acknowledge that I live and work on Darug and Ganangara land, and I pay respect to the past, present and future custodians and elders of this nation. I acknowledge my position as a non-Indigenous person living on land that has never been ceded. And my research project is titled Living the Pandemic, People, Community and Resilience in the Upper Blue Mountains. So I don't have to tell you of the unprecedented, catastrophic, challenging time we've all been living through. It's everywhere, blasted continually at us from computer screens. And what I can say is that it's a widely held belief that the world will be in for more of these disaster type events. So it therefore makes it imperative that we learn how to understand and better prepare for what may lie ahead in our futures. So by investigating what types of communities have been successful in combating the effects and the impacts of crisis events, we'll be in a better position to navigate the ever-increasing array of human-made and environmental challenges that the world is expected to face in the coming years. So in the next 10 minutes or so, I'll present a background on the community and location of the project. I'll outline the methodology used. I'll describe some of the emergent themes. I'll talk a little bit about community resilience research and its importance, and I'll ask you to click on a film link, which I've put in the chat. So the Upper Blue Mountains is located around 55 to 95 kilometres from the Sydney CBD. It is a city located within a World Heritage National Park, which means it's literally surrounded by bush. And this bushland backdrop underpins the character and the identity of the local community. So there are 27 towns located in a ribbon-like geography across the Great Western Highway. So why was the Upper Blue Mountains chosen? Because it hosts a diversity of community neighbourhood organisations, it has few transitory people, and the residents, of which I am one, have a strong sense of community. So being a member of the community myself, I remember the impacts of the Black Summer bushfires of 2019-20. So the community endured 3 months of poor air quality, economic hardship, and physical and emotional trauma, as 80% of the national park burnt around us. Now, the fires did eventually die down, and then the rains came, and we had a major flood event in February of 2020. And we all know what happened in March, a global pandemic. So I was interested to investigate how my community was navigating the traumatic events, what gave us security, how did we connect with each other, what was our level of resilience, and what could we learn from all this. So 16 interviews were conducted, 7 with community organisations and 9 with local residents. I also desktop surveyed the Mayor of the City of Blue Mountains Facebook page and the local media, which is the Gazette. And I went out into the community and conducted participant observation, and I documented via journal entries and photography and film footage. So reflexivity is really as much a part of the ethnographic process as the research is. And understanding that an anthropologist is not just a researcher, but also the subjects or the object of the research. And this was vitally important as part of my development as an anthropologist and part of the process. So being a field worker in my own backyard certainly highlighted the tensions between objective and subjective. And in fact, as I was transcribing back the interviews, I was constantly aware of my active engagement in the interview process and my passion for the issues. So I journaled it as noting that it was like a dance going back and forth between myself and the research participants, and the lines were constantly being blurred between interviewer and interviewee. And this is a form of research that I'm of particular interest to me, and I'd like to continue doing at-home ethnography in the future. 8 themes strongly emerged from the interviews: multi-level trauma, importance of connection, tourists and tourism, gratitude, technology, local versus global, the need for community services, and the differences between the bushfire and the COVID-19 responses. And each one of those is very dense and worthy of its own separate research project or paper. Resilient was the word most used to describe the community. When I asked interviewees how they felt about their community, resilient just kept coming up time and time again. And I started reflecting upon whether we actually were resilient together. Was it the glue that was binding us all together, one to the other? So an academic paper is being prepared in collaboration with Professor Hawkins and Dr. Onu Datia. And what we decided to do was to synthesize and reorganize the 8 themes under the overarching framework of resilience and in the categories of preparedness, gratitude, and real community. So preparedness, because interviewees felt that they had already been mobilised and connected one to the other as a consequence of the bushfire events that they are used to battling. Gratitude, because they were grateful for local leadership and for the beauty and the relative freedom that this environment conferred upon them due to the restrictions of lockdown. And real community, because interviewees felt that there was a strong sense already in place prior to the pandemic of the mountains as a separate and more authentic, perhaps, community than Sydney. Resilience through gratitude was a strategy that was utilised by the Mayor strongly in his Facebook postings. And a lot of people felt that it gave them great comfort. People were grappling, they said, with where they could get trusted information, and they turned inwards, focusing locally on local authorities, and the Mayor was one of those trusted sources. Interviewees also felt that there were positives that came out of COVID. They spoke about having time to sit back and reflect upon their lives and where they wanted to be and how they wanted to live their lives. Some people said that they didn't want to just return to normality, but they wanted to make things better. So to not just survive disasters, but to work towards addressing the causes, such as climate change, and thereby mitigating the effects. So this research project has provided an insight into a community who has survived a number of traumatic events, one straight after the other. It has done so by continuing to foster its sense of connection to each other and to place, by acknowledging and reasserting its own resilience and thereby incorporating it into its intrinsic identity, and by expressing feelings of gratitude and hope for the future. And so obviously this research, it's one interpretation and a snapshot of one moment in time. And we know that things have already significantly changed, providing further opportunities for continued research, which will contribute to the bank of knowledge that will assist us in moving forward in our futures. So now I'm going to ask you to click on a link. I created this film as part of the process to allow people to engage with the material in a more experiential and immersive way. So I hope it works. It's in the chat link. Do I stop share screening? I don't know, Ash. Are you going to mute everyone so that we can't hear people listening to the... Please come back before the credits too. You don't need to watch the credits.
Yeah, no worries, Tina. I'll just have a look at that. I'm not quite sure. Just give me a moment to figure that out. And you're almost at the 2-minute mark too, just to let you know.
Thank you. So should I stop share screen, or is everyone clicking on the link? Is everyone viewing it? Yeah, great.
I think you can stop sharing your screen.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, everybody, just in the interest of time, I'm conscious that people are probably at different stages of the video, and apologies for the technical difficulties there. However, I have posted the link in the chat to everyone. So if you would like just to copy that and paste it into a browser, you can look at that video that Tina has shared with us afterwards. I just really think we need to move along into the question time now, and we may try and condense that just to maybe three or 4 minutes, depending on how many questions we have. So I invite audience members to either send their question through the chat or raise their hand. Similarly with the judges, just raise your hand if you might have a question, and yeah, we'll move into that section now. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Do you want me to share screen again, or is just unmuting fine?
Unmuting is fine, I think, unless you've anything to share, Tina.
No,
you haven't already shared.
That's it. Thanks,
Yeah,
Ash.
no, just unmute. That's fine. Just like I said, please, if you have any questions for Tina, just let us know. Either raise your hand or pop something in the chat. Just give everyone a moment to collect their thoughts.
Hi, Ash. Maybe you didn't see my hand. I'm happy to kick off with questions. Thank you, Tina. That was, as is coming through in the chat, that was really kind of positive and uplifting. So thank you for that in what is has been a very difficult year, and more than that, as you point out. I mean, I had a number of questions, but maybe I can start with, you said in your paper that there were kind of different responses to the bushfires as compared to COVID. And I noticed, in the video, one of the kind of grabs, presumably from someone in the community, was talking about kind of COVID fostering distrust. But the overall kind of perspective that people seem to have was kind of solidarity building and community building. I was wondering, if you could talk maybe a little bit more about those differences that you kind of alluded to in those different crisis points. And indeed, do you think there is kind of a split in the community about how this has actually affected that kind of community status, that kind of togetherness that you suggest?
Yeah, sure. People that I spoke to felt that during the bushfires, it was more of an outward connection. So people were ready to jump in and help. The level of connection there was already established. There was like we all have the plan, we have the bushfire plan in place. So we were prepared for that. With the COVID, it was more isolating and more introverted. However, some of the community organisations did say because they had care plans in place for bushfire events, they were able to adapt those to therefore fit in with COVID. In terms of the us and them factor, it actually emerged more when talking about tourists. So what I found, which when I said each theme is so dense, it actually could be its own research topic. So the tourist and tourism is the lifeblood of the Blue Mountains. So we all love the tourists up here, but then at the same time, when we opened up, people were so scared of tourists. There was a lot of anger about people coming into our community. And people felt very protective over not just the community, but the environment as well. So yeah, different responses. It'd be interesting to reassess what's going on now, because I feel that there is even more, there's less connection now than there was in the first lockdown, I feel. People are a little bit more divided, and I think it's because of all the vaccination, the pro, and it's been polarizing for the community. So there's that to work through now. There's an extra layer on top of that.
Thank you, Tina, for that. I'm going to have to unfortunately end it there. Apologies, everyone. We just have gone over time, so I do need to keep us on track. Thanks so much, Tina. That was really insightful and great presentation.
Thank you very
for
much.
that. Gary, we will now hand over to you. I will just make you a co-host also so that you can share your screen if you would like to. And without further ado, we'll let you kick off your presentation.
Okay, so my research topic is on the effect of brief mindfulness and self-compassion meditations on psychological well-being. Do note that the research is currently in progress, so I'll spend the rest of the presentation talking about the foundations and as well the methodology behind the research. I'm being supervised by Associate Professor Naomi Sweller and Dr. Elizabeth Austin at Macquarie University. So the research questions of the current study is to look into the effect of brief mindfulness and self-compassion meditation and see whether they are effective in decreasing anxiety, stress, depression, negative effect, and as well as promoting positive effect. Another sort of aim of the study is to look into the role of treatment expectancy to see whether any benefits of the meditations are enhanced if participants have positive perceptions of the intervention itself. So just to give a brief overview, so right now, COVID has drastically affected the well-being of everyone. In Australia, a survey shows that 16 to 28% of Australians exhibit symptoms of psychological distress, notably anxiety, depression, and stress. And so this has warranted the need for effective modalities, especially ones that are feasible and that can be conducted at home. And one of the proposed sort of modalities that's out there is meditation. And recent research has shown that meditation has been shown to increase resilience, adaptive coping styles, distress tolerance, and emotional regulation. From a neurological perspective, it's also shown it's been associated with decreases in amygdala response and activity in the central parietal regions. And these regions are responsible for the negative emotional processing. So the most popular meditation that's out there is called mindfulness meditation. And so mindfulness meditation can be understood as a modality to cultivate a sort of metacognitive process where it allows one to be aware of their own thoughts, emotions, and impulses, and they're able to accept these idiosyncrasies without judgment. Given that meditation has been associated with a myriad of negative variables, such as decreasing mind wandering, rumination, negative thoughts, and a variety of other negative traits, and also increasing positive attributes such as optimism, life satisfaction, and even boosting overall immune function, is been considered as a trans-therapeutic technique, meaning that it can be used to address a variety of mental disorders, given that the aforementioned variables are present in mood disorders and other types of psychotic related disorders. So in terms of evaluating the research gap, hold on. All right, we skipped one earlier. So interestingly, mindfulness meditation interventions such as MBSR, which is a popular meditation-based therapy program, has shown to increase self-compassion. And also dispositional mindfulness, so mindfulness as a trait, has shown to increase self-compassion as well. Now, the interesting thing here is that self-compassion appears to play a mediating role. And what that means is that increases in self-compassion from mindfulness seems to alleviate depression, anxiety, and all of the various benefits that's been associated with mindfulness meditation, and also increase positive traits as well, like positive affect, happiness, life satisfaction, and acceptance of distress and suffering. So researchers have come to conclude and say that perhaps self-compassion is the responsible factor for all the benefits associated with mindfulness. So while both self-compassion and mindfulness meditation has been associated with increasing well-being, they both operate in slightly different ways. So with mindfulness meditation, it elicits something called decentering. And what that means is it allows an individual to sort of dissociate themselves from a stressor. And once individuals dissociate themselves with a stressor, they're able to extend that awareness to their own personal resources. So for example, they're able to realize that they have some sort of resiliency. And when they realize that they have all these various psychological assets, they're able to reappraise the stressor as benign, and therefore increases the increases in well-being happens. Whereas with self-compassion meditation, it directly targets one's perception of suffering. So it teaches them to accept that suffering is part of human nature and is inevitable, and they will be able to get through it. And upon this realization, what happens is that a lot of positive emotions come along, and in research, there's something called the undoing effect. And it's been proposed by Fredrickson. And what happens is the presence of positive emotions offsets the presence of negative emotions, so thereby leaving individual with heightened sense of well-being. Another thing with meditation research is that many of the studies have failed to account for expectancy effects. So it's been shown that people who have higher expectations of the meditation have yielded better recovery from depression, anxiety, and stress compared to individuals who do not. However, recent research has shown that within the construct of expectancy, there are two components. There's outcome and there's also credibility. So credibility is more about the logical part, whereas outcome is more of the benefits associated with the intervention. So the current study hypothesizes that the self-compassion meditation group will be superior in alleviating distress and increasing positive effect, followed by the mindfulness meditation and lastly, the control condition. Next, the current study also hypothesized that treatment expectancy will play a moderating role, wherein the benefits elicited by the meditation conditions will be greater for those who have positive perceptions of meditation itself. So the methods, currently the study has 88 participants, so 30 in self-compassion, 29 in the mindfulness and control condition. The proposed analysis that we will be running is in two-way and COVA. Currently, the study is recruiting first year and second year students, and the average age is about 20 years old. In terms of the instruments that we will be using we'll be using self-report measures, so a DAS-21 questionnaire, so that sort of measures participants' depression, anxiety, and stress, and also something called the credibility expectancy scale, and so that measures participants' treatment perceptions about the meditation. And also we'll be administering the PANA scale, which looks at positive and negative effect. So the procedure, in terms of procedure, so there are a total of 26 experiment sessions conducted. So when participants came in, they completed all of the measures of the aforementioned psychometric properties. In the mindfulness condition, they listened to a 20-minute mindful breathing meditations, which emphasized on things like mindful breathing and mindful counting, and also breathing exercises. In self-compassion, they also meditated for 20 minutes, but focused on empathetic cognitions and self-affirmation exercises. And in the control, they just listened to a 20-minute audiobook. And after the end of the treatment, they completed the scale again so that we could receive their post measures. So in terms of the significance of the research, so conducting to knowledge, this is the first study to actively compare mindfulness meditation with self-compassion meditation. And understanding the role that these two meditations play will definitely render more insights into how mind-body connections work, which is especially pertinent given the threat of COVID and how it's compromising psychological well-being. Another benefit of the research is that it will render more insight into the role of expectancy. So with with the construct that's being used in this study, it allows us to discern certain elements of expectancy. So outcome expectancies, meaning the perceptions of the benefits itself versus treatment credibility. So how logical the treatment seems in the perspective of participants. See which one plays a larger role if they somehow manage to enhance the benefits of meditation. This will also ultimately inform clinical intervention. So the current therapeutic techniques such as MBSR, mindfulness cognitive therapy, into how they can cater and improve their therapeutic techniques to bolster mental health in clinical settings and also for the general population.
Gary, I'm going to have to stop you there. Thank you very much for that presentation. It was fantastic. Apologies, my phone is ringing in the background here. We'll just go straight into questions, please. So if people have questions, please fire away. Thank you.
Gary, I'm happy to kick us off again. Thank you for another excellent presentation. This panel has actually worked really well. I think all your papers have spoken to each other, so that's really good from the organizer's perspective, I suppose. But I think it speaks to kind of like a lot of our kind of current global concerns about the world and how we deal with how we're in it. I mean, I guess I had a pretty basic question, if you'll indulge me. Has this research been done, or are you framing this as research that you're going to be doing?
This is in progress. So right now, actually with the COVID pandemic, we were aiming to recruit more participants, so at least over 100. But right now, as you can see, there's only 88 participants. So we had to sort of run the data analysis with 88 people. So it is still in progress. So in terms of inferential statistic, that is still being conducted. So yeah.
Yeah, no, awesome. I mean, because my kind of follow-up question to that was basically, have you had any reflections on doing a research project like this in COVID? Has it made it more difficult? Has it made it easier? Is it easier to source participants because of that? And does it change your kind of research methodology having to do things digitally?
Yes, definitely. So I think in the previous slide, I mentioned that there were like only 1 to 3 participants per session. So then this was because we had to abide by the COVID-19 research protocol. So had this not occurred, definitely I could have easily run the meditation for perhaps 20 people in one go, and that would have significantly increased the numbers of the research and would have expedited the whole process and procedure. So yeah.
Were there any final questions, either from any of our audience members or from our judges? Tony, you have
Yeah, I'm interested in this tension, Gary, between expectation and being flexible and living in the now, and what your research suggests, because sort of certainly having had experience in meditation and contemplation and religious prayer, expectation is important, but it can get in the way. It can, anyway, from living from personal experience with this across different mediums and traditions.
Sure. Sorry, I'm not sure why my video went off, but but anyways,
so a lot of young people are distressed because of their expectations of the next 6 months, and I'm surprised that actually having expectation that meditation works is key, or you're suggesting it is, rather than actually being open to the possibilities of something, which is kind of been my journey this year.
Yes, so definitely. So one thing that we have to keep in mind is that meditation was derived from Eastern philosophy. And so when we sort of implemented with certain types of populations, sometimes people, there's some sort of skepticism that is associated with sort of unpopular or third wave therapy such as meditation. And so that can sort of affect many ways of how people sort of respond to the therapy. So for example, meditation, it requires a lot of attention training, a lot of focus. But if they don't believe in that, it's going to interfere with the sort of treatment adherence, and that may compromise their efficacy.
Well, we say in the arts community, you look at a work, but you come with a lens, you know, which will change what you see. So yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for those questions and presentations. They were each different, but also had that similar thread running through. So look, that brings us to the end of today's session. Thanks, everybody, for your participation. Thank you to our judges, Dr. Ben Eldridge, and also to Gillian Shedneck from our academic skills team here at ANU. And congratulations to each of the student presenters. You all did very well today. This recording will be made available online following the conference, so we will share that with you. It'll probably be next week. And judges, if you can submit your judging sheets as per your instructions as well, that would be great. But thank you, everyone. I'm going to have to end this abruptly. Apologies, because we have another session about to begin. But thank you. Take care.